Good morning, AP Psych students, and I guess some of you will watch this in the afternoon. Today we're going to talk about drugs. So yesterday we talked about tolerance and withdrawal and I don't know, we talked about Jane Doe and all those kind of things. Today we're going to talk about the three categories of psychoactive drugs. Um, and hmm, so I don't know. Let's do this. All right, first one is depressants. All right, you got to remember that depressants slow you down. They're going to reduce the neural activity. So the activity in your brain is going to reduce and your body is going to slow down. Common depressants are alcohol, barbiturates, and opiates. Okay, and so let's talk about those. All right, again, alcohol. One of the, it's very addictive. It is the most commonly used of the depressants. And its effect, again, is to calm the nervous system down. Now, people talk about people getting crazy when they drink. There can be an initial euphoria, but in the end, alcohol slows you down. It makes you sleep, but actually your sleep is not very good quality. You spend a lot of time in REM. So it's not the best kind of sleep aid. It's not a good sleep aid. So people think it's a stimulant because it relaxes some inhibitions, but ultimately you'll slow down and be sleeping in the corner after that. So alcohol definitely is a depressant. You really want to know the category. The alcohol falls within the depressants. All right, barbiturates, these are called downers. They're often used for sleep disorders, excuse me, like insomnia, and they can interfere with your sleep patterns and cause a lot of dependence. So once you start using barbiturates, you find it very difficult to sleep without them. And so because they're messing with your sleep patterns, their effect very similar to alcohol. Okay, they're going to slow you down, relax you, and again, usually used to treat insomnia or other sleep disorders. Okay, your opiates. Now, sometimes some books put this opiates in its own category because they actually act a little different than depressants. Opiates are your painkillers. Okay, and so all the opiates. It could be heroin, it can be morphine, it could be the oxys, oxycontin, oxycodone. Codeine is an opiate. They're all derived from the poppy plant. That's that red flower. If you remember, if you've watched The Wizard of Oz, they walk through the poppy fields and then they all fall asleep. So that's an opiate. In the body, they act like endorphins. So endorphins are naturally occurring painkillers, and things in the body. It's a neurotransmitter that makes you feel good and it reduces your pain. So we'll talk about endorphins when we talk about neurotransmitters. So you have naturally occurring endorphins in the body. Opiates will really mimic that and act like endorphins in your body. So initially you get a euphoria. It feels good, your pain is gone, but it clouds your mental functioning. So if you're using an opiate, you can't drive, your reaction times are slowed and things like that. So again, opiates are painkillers, and a lot falls under opiate. So if you see opium, we'll talk about that in world history, morphine, heroin, and the oxys, they all, oxycontin, oxycodone, codeine falls under this, all of those kind of things, okay? They're gonna make you kind of sleepy, but they take away the pain. So they're very addictive. I'm going to not do Jane on this. All right, stimulants, okay, so depressants slow you down. Stimulants speed you up, okay? They get your certain central nervous system excited. And so the drugs, we talked about some of these yesterday, caffeine, nicotine, cocaine, ecstasy, amphetamines, and methamphetamines. Those are all things that fall into the stimulant category. Okay, so caffeine and nicotine. Caffeine is something many of us use. Nicotine is your smokers, your vapors. Then you've got the more illegal drugs, cocaine, ecstasy, methamphetamines. Amphetamines can be prescribed medications, but they're widely abused. So let's take a look at those. Caffeine, it comes from, it can be found naturally in coffee, tea, cocoa, and chocolate. So all those things have caffeine in them. That's probably why we like them so much. It's been an additive to soft drinks for a long time. It's also added to pain medications. So I get migraines every now and then, and so I will take like an Advil migraine or one of the aspirin kind of migraine medicines, and they've added caffeine into it. That actually helps with your migraine sometimes. Caffeine, of course, increases your alertness, but if you take too much, it can cause you to have anxiety, headaches, your heart can race, you have heart fluctuations, palpitations. It also can lead to insomnia. You're, taking too much of it, and diarrhea. That's a fun one to talk about. So this, you got to be careful. You've seen, probably all seen the case, where the kid drinks all the Red Bulls and the Starbucks and all that, and then he dies because his heart is racing and he can't take that. So you have to watch the dosing of caffeine. You don't want to overdo it because it'll cause your heart to race. It can be dangerous. We don't think of caffeine as dangerous, but it can be in high doses. All right, nicotine, we talked about smoking yesterday. Nicotine's found in tobacco. It's naturally occurring. It's considered one of the most addictive stimulants, I guess the most addictive stimulant. It affects all kinds of neurotransmitters in your brain. And like I said, we'll learn more about those later. It depends on how long you smoke, okay? So nicotine can have stimulating effects. The longer you smoke, people find it like more like sedative or sedative. Sedative. But it relaxes you, all right? So long-time smokers use it to relax, but it's probably similar to when you use a stimulant like an amphetamine to treat ADHD, and so that calms them down. So it's the opposite effect. So that's probably a little bit to do with that. You can get kind of all kinds of withdrawal symptoms from the nicotine. Talked about those yesterday too. You get nervous, a little anxious, headaches, irritability is a big one. And like I said, having watched somebody quit smoking, irritability is huge. Okay, amphetamines. Yikes. All right. Amphetamines stimulate neural activities, causing your body to, accelerate, and it'll change. You can see this is somebody on amphetamines. It gives off energy and mood changes, but the effects of amphetamine abuse. Okay, amphetamines are something that can be prescribed medication, I can't think of the name of it. It's an ADHD medication, has some amphetamines in it. It's in your reading. It's very much like the neurotransmitter epinephrine, and it activates your sympathetic nervous system. It gives people a feeling of alertness and well-being, but it causes initial euphoria and then a big crash, okay? And so that can lead to depression. And so you're sad, then you want more of it, and so that leads into that cycle of depression. Amphetamine is very addictive, and again, it's affecting your epinephrine flow in your brain. Amphetamines are the basis of methamphetamines and MDMA, which is ecstasy. So those are forms of amphetamines. Meth, it's like double processed or double cooked. I don't know that much about it. And MDMA or ecstasy is one form of methamphetamine, which is a form of amphetamine. So they're very similar. Ecstasy acts both like a stimulant, okay? So it's a methamphetamine, but it also acts as a hallucinogen because, you'll see distorted images and things like that. So when we talk about hallucinogens, the thing about like ecstasy or a methamphetamine like that is that, it stays in the system for a long time. And so when you take another dose and you've still got some in your system, it like gives you like an even double effect. And so, a lot of times people won't realize that it's still in their system, and sometimes over a week or so. And so then the effects and the ability to overdose are fairly dramatic. So that's a dangerous kind of drug. All right, I can't read the word for ecstasy, so we'll call it MDMA. Like I said, it's a stimulant and a hallucinogen. It gives you this kind of high, but it damages the serotonin. Serotonin are feel-good neurotransmitters in your brain. So it damages those neurons that produce serotonin. And so it can permanently alter your mood and impair your memory. Those are things that serotonin do. So you're, taking MDMA can permanently alter you, and then cause mood issues. So not a good thing to take. All right, no drugs are actually. Cocaine blocks the reabsorption of dopamine. So it gives this euphoric feeling, and there's this increased alertness. People feel really motivated. And so like at first it feels really good, but then you have a horrible crash. And the crash will lead you to feel anxious and depressed, and then you crave the drug more. And so this interferes with your dopamine reward circuit, and ultimately, the more cocaine that is used, the less dopamine that is produced by the body. And then, you get into the cycle of, cravings and crash. And so cocaine's very highly addictive. And so that's cocaine. Hallucinogens will give a distortion. Any kind of hallucinogen is going to distort either visual images or auditory images. So sounds or images will be distorted, all right? And so the most common one people are probably familiar with, we'll talk about an experiment that deals with it, is LSD. LSD gives you hallucinations and some delusions, kind of like if you're schizophrenic. So, it's similar to a psychotic state. It can result in psychosis, memory loss, paranoia, panic attacks, nightmares, and can make people aggressive. So that's LSD. And that's commonly, I think most people go, oh yeah, that's, that makes sense. It's a hallucinogen. But the next one is marijuana. People are often shocked that marijuana falls under the hallucinogen category, but you got to know that it does. The THC in marijuana can produce mild hallucinations and that sense of euphoria. So there's a distortion there. It also distorts time for people. And so that's what makes it a hallucinogen. It's also fairly relaxing. Some people that use marijuana may experience some anxiety and paranoia. Use by young people is being studied a lot right now, and they're finding that it impairs, while it might not be as damaging to older people that use it chronically, that it's definitely damaging to the brain of younger people because they're still developing, and it causes issues with learning and attention. So keep that in mind. And that, my friends, is, really what you have to need to know about drugs. You really want to know what a stimulant is, a depressant is, an opiate is, and a hallucinogen. Know what they are and what they do. And then know that alcohol is a depressant. Know which drugs fall into that category. That's going to be the majority of questions that you see. With cocaine, they might ask you a dopamine question. Cocaine prevents the reabsorption of dopamine. That means there's a lot more dopamine in your system. And so it's gonna, if it says anything about dopamine or dopamine reward circuit, that's probably gonna be a cocaine question. But really knowing the categories that the drugs are in is going to be the most important part. Hopefully you read the reading on psychoactive drugs, and you can see a little bit more about it. It talks a little bit more about the neurotransmitters and things like that. And so between the two, and if you watch the videos, you should have a pretty good understanding of drugs for what we need for psych purposes. So that's it for today. Have a great day.